Ladies and gentlegrams, the Adin unveiler, the Aubrey unaliver, the fast food rap slicer, nicer than his brother, probably not, but possibly the puniest proximity behind. Powder white rhymes, Pusha T tossed Travis a terrifying warning. For the Cactus Jack juggling auto-tune tampering big flip-flopper of hip-hop, Travis Scott. So Travis tried crumbling the commotion of the Clips project, putting JACKBOYS out in the same week, but Pusha T it seems like he did not defeat. Both Travis and Justin Bieber taking aim at the Clips. So let's jump into it, but first drop a like and subscribe because this is something you won't want to miss. Now, ladies and gentlegrams, do you want to understand the full history behind how Pusha T surgically dismantled and peeled the curtains back behind the buffoonery that was going on within Kanye West's good music camp? Not just Kanye himself, but Travis Scott as well. Well, I have a whole video breaking that down front to back, so you can check it out right here at the top of the screen.
I study rap battles for a living.
And while you're at it, I just did what I think is my best video of all time, a full front to back comprehensive breakdown of exactly how the Clips actually entered the game, all the turbulences they faced, basically a documentary of their entire career. You could check that out right here at the top of the screen as well.
I study rap battles for a living.
So here we're back with another video yapping about Pusha T, alright? But this time around, he's not the one throwing out shots. He's not the one targeting other rappers, but instead, he is the target. See, you guys probably know he and his brother No Malice released their 15-year comeback album, Let God Sort 'Em Out, last Friday, and with a lot of Pusha T fans saying this was one of the best rollouts we've seen in a very long time for an album, there's a strong group of, I guess you could call them music fans, on the opposing end, on the other side, who said, oh yeah, Pusha T's album rollout is so good. Let's see how much his album will really sell, right? Let's see how much all that work he did for the album rollout will actually pay off in the form of sales. And these are people who ride for three artists in particular: Travis Scott, Kanye West, and or Drake. Why is that? Well, it's because Pusha T has called all these three artists out on their BS over the last few months, particularly on this album rollout. See, Pusha T has never shied away from doing an interview, and during those interviews, he's never shied away from just telling you what the F is good, alright? The last interview we got from Drake was in 2019, and you could tell that thing was so over the top produced and manufactured. He was filtering out questions like a Brita with tap water. He was not allowing anything controversial to be asked if it would make him look bad. Pusha T, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. He wants to tell you what the F is good at all times. It doesn't matter what type of drama it brings upon him. And now he's reaping the fruits of his labor after many long interviews of calling out the BS going on behind the scenes. Because he's got two tough opponents in Travis Scott and Justin Bieber coming at him. We're going to mainly be focusing on Travis Scott in this video because we have a lot to break down with the brand new album that he just gave us, 17 new songs. And this could by far be the worst project Travis Scott has ever put out, and it marks a much bigger shift that's going on within hip-hop. But let's start with the Biebs, alright? Let's start with Justin Bieber. Leave it to Bieber. Mr. Bieber has not been in the best state over the last few years, and it's really sad to see him not really seeming happy, him not really seeming in his right mind in most settings. Like, you'll see him yelling at the paparazzi. There's that whole meme about him saying, you know, it's not clocking to you, I'm standing on business. But like when you actually remove, you know, the comedic aspect of this Canadian child's pop star talking about, you know, standing on business, you're really seeing as a man who has been used and abused by Hollywood. And at this point, he seems exhausted from it. So much so to the point where he has not dropped an actual album in, I believe, over 4 years at this point. So you can imagine he's one of the biggest pop stars in the world. When Justin Bieber makes a grand return, the world ends up stopping, right? Like, this is the biggest pop star of this generation. Well, another artist or group who have not released a project in many, many years, actually triple the amount of time that it's taken Justin Bieber to release his last project, is the Clips. They hadn't put out an album again since 2009, the year that Justin Bieber actually made his big break within the music industry. Now, what's interesting is that the Clips and Justin Bieber were actually signed to the same record label, Def Jam Records. A once legendary hip-hop record label is a shell of its former self, but still housed two massive acts in the Clips and especially in Justin Bieber. What's interesting is that the Clips were actually supposed to release their album last year in summer of 2024, but there was one thing holding up the release, and that was Def Jam Records. See, Def Jam is a label under Universal Music Group. Kendrick Lamar and Drake are two artists that are both under Universal Music Group. La Brianna threw a Toronto temper tantrum after the tiny tempered Tupac twin taunted him all summer last summer with the release of Not Like Us. So he went to UMG and said, hey, I am one of your biggest artists. I don't like how this song is destroying my reputation. You guys keep promoting it, I'm gonna sue you. UMG said, but wait, Drake, this song is getting dozens of millions of streams every day. It's breaking all these records. It's making us so much money. We can't stop promoting it now. People love this song. The more we promote it, the more money we make. We're not stopping this. And Drake said, what? But they've been crucifying and carving the casket of the Canadian Katy Perry. How could you let this happen? I'm your golden goose. So the golden goose became the gavel glazing gram, getting the paperwork ready to become the petty petition prom queen padre. But at the same time, Pusha T wants to put out his album with his brother. So he brings it to Def Jam. They're listening to the project. They like what they hear until they stumble upon a Kendrick Lamar verse on the song Chains and Whips. And they said, oh crap, like what are we gonna do here, right? Like Drake just came to us and he's like, yo, stop promoting the song Not Like Us. Stop giving Kendrick these platforms because I am your highest earner and this is a bad look for me, so I'm gonna sue you if you don't stop. UMG never stopped, but now we got a second go around, right? Because Pusha T is Drake's second biggest op, and then you got Kendrick Lamar on the same song. UMG's executives were looking at that as a recipe for disaster, especially since their highest earning rapper, Drake, was on the cusp of filing lawsuits against them. But this was still at a time when resolutions and compromises and making up was still on the table. UMG, Def Jam, they're about the dinero, right? So they look at a song like Chains and Whips, and you gotta weigh out the pros and the cons, the risks and the rewards, right? Chains and Whips is not a Not Like Us. It's not meant to be a hit. It's meant to be a gritty, lyric-driven, heavy-hitting song. UMG doesn't care about releasing a song like that because that's not a song that's going to print up the cash like a Not Like Us, right? So they said, forget it. We're not putting this out because right now it is a horrible look when we're still trying to become, we're still trying to be friends with Drake here, friends with the phony Montana, and you're out here, two of Drake's biggest ops getting on a song when he's threatening us to sue, and then we're supposed to be the ones that release this song? Nah, forget it. So, according to Pusha T, Def Jam executives basically became a little suspect after this. They wanted all communication to be done through the phone instead of through email about the album, but then they stopped answering phone calls. Things were getting weird, and Pusha T had felt like he was kind of a second-class citizen, a second-class artist on this label, ever since, really, the story of Adin, the beef with Drake. But things got taken to a whole other level when UMG is worried about losing Drake or getting sued by Drake. So to them at that point, Pusha T really becomes an afterthought. And they tell him, hey, we like the album, but you gotta censor this Kendrick verse or do something with this because the optics of everything look bad. And, now that the verse is actually out, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think is the bar that fully set the label off? I think it's gotta be the last bar when he says, the trump card told me not to spare your life. Obviously in reference to the fact that he didn't spare LaBrianna's life. He carved out that Canadian casket. However, it's not really a diss at Drake. It's more the look of Pusha T and Kendrick standing next to each other, especially since this song was supposed to be released in summer of 2024, right after the beef. That wouldn't have been a good look if the record label that released this song with two of Drake's biggest ops was the same record label Drake was signed to that he was threatening to sue because he felt like Not Like Us damaged his reputation and left his actual safety in jeopardy, and this was all thanks to the promotion that UMG supported. Long story short, Pusha T said, nah, you're following through. Either you release the album the way we presented it, or we don't censor a damn word and we take our music and walk. But Def Jam said, hold up, you can't just leave, buddy, you are signed to us. You got contracts to fulfill, and not just you as the Clips, but also you as a solo artist, right? So we can't just drop the Clips and you guys go release that album somewhere else because you, Pusha T, are still an artist under Def Jam. So think about how the paperwork would look if you have, one record label that's trying to eat off the Clips, but then Def Jam is still trying to eat off Pusha T as a solo artist, and, half of the Clip songs are Pusha T. Too many hands in the pot. So what Pusha T did is one of the boldest moves I think we've seen in hip-hop in a very long time. For the sanctity of artistic integrity, for the fight against censorship, Pusha T refused to remove that Kendrick Lamar verse off the project. Instead, he paid Def Jam 7 figures to leave the label and take that album to Rock Nation, and they signed a deal about a day after Pusha T left Def Jam. And this is the record business, right? And in business, people are snakes, they're ruthless, they're cutthroat, and they don't want to see you win if they don't have a hand in the pot, right? But they do have a hand in another pot, and that would be Justin Bieber. So while the Clips did a very traditional album rollout, doing all the interviews, doing the tiny desks, doing the previews of the album beforehand, doing the singles, doing the music videos, doing what you're supposed to do as artists if you value your music at a high level. And were they doing this in hopes of selling a lot of albums? Were they doing this just because, you know, when you go back and look at this era, at this music, at this moment in history, you want the music to match the movement in terms of quality, right? You want to remember the music videos, the merch, the performances, everything surrounding the album to be as high a quality as the album, right? Or maybe they wanted to just sell a lot of records and that's why they were going to every podcast and all that. Who knows? But boy, did they go to a lot of different interviews. But I say all that to say, right? Like, they were trying to create a big moment here. Like, this was the week of the Clips. 2 days before this Clips week arrives, we get an announcement from Justin Bieber in a very strange, low-key way. Remember how I said earlier in this video, like, you would think Justin Bieber, one of the biggest pop stars in the world, when he comes back with his next album, it's going to shatter the scope of music. Well, it didn't seem like such a grand return. I mean, Drake has been gone for maybe 3 months from music, and like even his new single seems like more of a moment. Hyped Up is more of a comeback than this Justin Bieber album. So the Biebs announces this new project with a series of different promotional pictures, stuff like that. And do you guys notice the similarities here? Like, these pictures look identical almost to the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers photo shoot. I believe a few weeks ago, Justin Bieber was also dancing to Not Like Us. He made an appearance, actually. He was one of the very few guests who actually came to the GNX show and performed live, but he did so with SZA, not with Kendrick. I bring that up because due to them both being from Canada, you would think Justin Bieber probably sides with Drake in this whole conflict, right? But now he's showing you that he's inspired by Kendrick Lamar. So 2 days before the Clips album is supposed to come out, Bieber announces his album is going to come out on the same day. Remember, Justin Bieber is signed to Def Jam, the label that Pusha T paid to drop him so he can go and release this project on a different label. And a lot of things, to me at least, kind of seem weird here, right? Like, Justin Bieber's a massive superstar and it seems like there was zero marketing budget behind this project. And yes, sometimes, you know, artists that are that big, they don't do the whole rollout thing. They just drop an album as a surprise tape. But, you know, you could kind of see the budget going into the actual production of the project. The beat makers, the features, the songwriters. Nothing about this project seems high budget, from the marketing campaign to the actual music itself. It was announced 2 days before it actually came out. Everything about it kind of screams throwaway, right? Why would Def Jam want their biggest superstar's grand return after 4 years to seem so nonchalant, to seem like a throwaway? Why would that benefit them as a record label to try to optimize profits? It absolutely wouldn't. And it wouldn't benefit Justin Bieber's career either, right? So why would he feel incentivized to roll his project out in such a half-baked way? All of it kind of seemed weird. And it might seem completely unrelated, but the big elephant in the room is the fact that Def Jam lost out on what would have been one of their biggest album releases of the year when the Clips paid Def Jam to leave the label and go somewhere else, right? Then, about a day after the album's release, you get this Instagram story from Justin Bieber. He's reposting something his friend wrote, but it says, "Justice is served. Lil Bieber emptied the clip." I find it hilarious he calls himself Lil Bieber now. And the album is called Swag, by the way. And they continue, "This is the only album that matters right now. This album is way better than the Clips. The Clips is for bitter grown men who collect Cause dolls and shop at Kith and Union." Now, the funniest part about all this is that Justin Bieber himself is a grown man, right? And you'll see Travis Scott kind of takes the same approach when he's dissing Pusha T. But yeah, Justin Bieber himself is 31 years old. I can't see any incentive that he'd have to start making fun of Pusha T's age, the Clips' age, and the fans that listen to them, the fans that, you know, shop at Kith or whatever he said the old men that listen to the Clips do. I can't see a reason why he would go and diss the Clips like this online publicly and release an album on the same week as them. A very rushed, surprise, nonchalant drop. Nonetheless, the only likely scenario I could have seen happening is Justin Bieber has a good relationship with the label who has a bad relationship with Pusha T and the Clips, and there was some sort of behind-the-scenes incentive for Justin Bieber to get this album out. If you're a label, you want to show your shareholders, you want to show people who are looking to invest into your company, like, we don't make bad decisions, right? Dropping the Clips or letting them go was not a bad decision. How do you show that? You show that they're flopping by not being on your label. How do you do that? you get your biggest superstar to release their project on the same day as the artist who left your label, aka the Clips. Then you get your artist to diss the artist that left your label on social media. Perfect recipe to knock the Clips down a couple pegs. And Justin Bieber wouldn't be alone in being the only major artist trying to release to compete with the Clips on this week, but this other artist has a much different situation than Justin Bieber. See, unlike Justin Bieber, who shared a major label in Def Jam with Pusha T and Travis Scott shared the same immediate musical family together for many years, almost all the entire 2010s decade. Pusha T signed to Good Music, Kanye's label, in 2010 and later became the president in, I believe, 2015. And Travis Scott was signed to Kanye's Good Music as an in-house producer starting in 2013. They worked together a couple times, Pusha and Travis. They expressed admiration for one another on several occasions. Travis Scott becomes this global superstar. He starts dating Kylie Jenner. At the same time, Pusha T starts beefing Drake, literally in that same summer. Drake not only takes Pusha shots as offense, but takes the fact that Kanye is producing these Pusha T beats that he's dissing Drake on as an insult, so Drake attacks both Kanye and Pusha, most notably on Travis Scott's Astroworld album, which was heavily promoted by his then-girlfriend Kylie Jenner, in which Drake raps on Sicko Mode, crept down the block, made it right, blah blah blah, you know the BS bars. Kinda weird that Travis would let it slide, given the fact that he was signed to Kanye for several years. Kanye essentially put him on, right? And now he's letting some other dude diss Kanye on his record. And nonetheless, they're in the same family, right? Kanye being married to Kim at the time, Travis Scott dating Kylie Jenner, them being at the same family organizations, and hearing Sicko Mode blasting on the speaker, Kanye having to hear threats on his life from Drake on a song that his brother-in-law, whatever you would call Travis to Kanye at the time, yeah, he greenlit that song that's threatening his brother-in-law, man who put him on, right? So Pusha T being, the president of Good Music, it's his job to oversee all this stuff, right? Understand what's fully going on within the scope of the roster. So he's paying attention, and as the years progress, Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott eventually break up in October of 2019. Now, around that same time, you start getting reports that Kylie Jenner is out partying with Tyga and his friend AE, aka Alexander Edwards. I'm going to skip ahead a bit now. We get to the promotional rollout of the Clips' new album, right? The greatest promotional rollout of all time. So we get the song So Be It. On a side note, I love part 2 so much better of that song. Drop a comment which beat that you guys prefer. But on the third verse of that track, Pusha T raps, "You cried in front of me, you died in front of me. Calabasas took your B and your pride in front of me. Her utopia had moved right up the street, and her lip gloss was popping. She ain't need you to eat. The net's gonna call it the way that they see it, but I got the video I could share and AE it. They wouldn't believe it, but I can't unsee it. Lucky I ain't TMZ it. So be it, so be it." Cold verse, and what he's referencing is, of course, Travis Scott, right? Them being on the same label, the same camp, Good Music, being in close corners for many years, Pusha T is emphasizing that at one point, Travis Scott had broken down and died and cried in front of him. Then referencing the fact that Calabasas took his girl and his pride, and Kylie's utopia had moved right up the street. We know, obviously, aside from the fact that Pusha T literally later confirmed it in interviews, he was talking about Travis Scott. Aside from that, there's so many clues here, right? I mean, her utopia had moved up the street. Obviously, we know Travis Scott's album was called Utopia, which is going to play an important role very shortly. Also, her lip gloss was popping. She ain't need you to eat. Travis Scott had a McDonald's fast food deal. Kylie Jenner had a lip gloss deal that was making billions of dollars. She didn't need Travis Scott to eat, to be rich. She lives in Calabasas. Calabasas took his girl and his pride. It's very obvious, right? What wasn't so obvious, though, were the next set of bars. When he raps, the net's gonna call it the way that they see it, but I got the video I could share and AE it. Now, there was a lot of rumors, again, going back and forth at the time when Travis and Kylie initially broke up. Who broke up with who? Was it amicable? Was Kylie Jenner really seeing Tyga right after breaking up with Travis Scott? Well, notice how Pusha T says, "I got the video I could share and AE it." AE, standing for Alexander Edwards, is not only the name of Tyga's friend, but also an individual who was dating the singer Cher. Alexander Edwards had gotten into a physical altercation with Travis Scott in Paris in 2023. And again, he's good friends with Tyga, who was dating Kylie Jenner long before Travis Scott was dating her and rumored to be dating her just days after her and Travis broke up as well. There's videos of Travis and AE fighting. So that's not what Pusha T's talking about when he says the Next's gonna call it the way they see it. I got the video, I could share and AE it. But he's definitely referencing Tyga's crew, AE, Alexander Edwards, because share and AE it is a double entendre, meaning I could share the clip, AE it, like the TV network A&E that hosts documentaries, but AE and share also referencing the couple, Alexander Edwards, Tyga's friend, and the singer, Cher. And the craziest part is Pusha T makes a little, warning, a little threat at the end of this verse saying, lucky I ain't TMZ it, right? But Travis Scott is talking crazy today. First, we gotta understand though, why exactly was Pusha T out of the complete blue taking shots at a rapper who can defend himself probably even worse than Justin Bieber can on a mic? Why does Pusha T all of a sudden have such disdain for Travis that he would threaten to release video footage of Travis breaking down over the breakup of his utopia Kylie Jenner? Well, lucky for us, this was the rollout of the century where Pusha T did not hold a single thing back, including explaining what the hell is good between him and Travis Scott. So as Pusha T tells it, him, his brother, and Pharrell were cooking up Clips album in Paris at the Louis Vuitton headquarters when Travis Scott comes in, interrupts their session in order to preview Pharrell his brand new album Utopia at the time. Pharrell was a feature on the album, and Travis's rollout at the time was anyone who was featured on the project got a briefcase that said Utopia on it, which I'm assuming had the actual album in it. But if you guys don't remember, Drake's verse on that project came in late. So the version that Travis Scott had played when he interrupted the Clips and Pharrell studio session featured the Meltdown song without the Travis verse and without the Drake verse. Remember that Pharrell is actually featured on the Utopia project and Travis is interrupting this studio session. And once the album finally releases, you hear Drake sneak dissing not just Pusha T, not just No Malice, but Pharrell as well on this Meltdown verse, essentially saying that he doesn't give a F about the heritage that he once said was his biggest inspiration, but instead now he's melting down Pharrell's chains that he bought at an auction, and he's no longer wearing any Louis Vuitton clothes since Pharrell became the director of menswear at the brand. He also makes a little bit of a threat saying that Pharrell, Pusha T, whoever was in Paris Fashion Week that year was lucky that Vogue was suing Drake, or else he would have been there as well with the Wassas, whoever the Wassas are. Now, this is all on Travis Scott's album that he just previewed to Pharrell, and Pharrell is getting dissed all throughout this verse that he didn't hear when Travis interrupted the studio session. It's very reminiscent to when Travis Scott had been all buddy-buddy with Kanye, of course, their brother-in-laws, and then he gets Drake on his Sicko Mode record taking shots at Drake. And it's not like Travis hadn't heard these verses before slapping them onto his album. This is him reacting to the Sicko Mode verse. You could hear him freaking out over the checks over stripes bar, right? Like, he is very aware that that's dissing Kanye, but he doesn't care. It's all about the moment, the hype, the energy. For him, there's no loyalty. So that is essentially what Pusha T's problem is with Travis.
He's shameless. It all came from actually being in Paris. Came carrying the Utopia briefcase.
Right. Yep.
Doing his whole spiel. He interrupts the session. The next day, the Meltdown verse comes on.
I melt down the chains that I bought from your boss.
Talking about
Melting Pharrell's jewelry.
Yeah, and all of that. That was a corny, you shouldn't have been here anyway. Him specifically too.
And Pusha T emphasizes, to come back into their mix and to pull some crap like that, it might be all right with Kanye, it might be all right with Drake, it doesn't fly with Pusha T, and that's why he's sending out these bars. And what's ironic is, a lot of times Drake is the one that kind of gets Travis into this trouble, right? Think about the Sicko Mode verse where he's dissing Kanye. Then think about the Meltdown verse after Travis previews the album to Pharrell. Now Drake is dissing Pharrell on that same album. Well, it's not like Drake is safe from becoming another one of Travis Scott's victims, because Pusha T notes that even throughout the Kendrick and Drake beef, before that actually popped off, Future and Metro Boomin had brought Travis out for a performance at Rolling Loud where they were previewing the album, and Travis Scott was begging them to play the song Like That, which of course has the Kendrick verse that kicked off this entire battle.
Just play that. Oh, man. Please, bro. I'm sorry, bro. Metro's trying to get out of here. You want the album right now, nigga. Now get the. Here we go.
I don't take it as personal as I should. It's Travis. He's harmless. I'm not into his whole makeup. To come back in our fold and then, you know, do all that he did was like, man, I was corny. He's shameless. You've seen him do it to everybody. I've definitely had to put my hand on your shoulder before. You died in front of me. You cried in front of me. Calabasas took your and your pride in front of me. I had to help you. People take that type of for granted. I don't take that for granted. So be it.
So all in all, this is why Pusha T had jumped out the gate, attacking Travis Scott on the record, so be it, and being very upfront in interviews about his direct problems with Travis. Now, at the same time, we haven't heard a Travis album since Utopia, the one that was dissing Pharrell. He had been briefly teasing an upcoming JACKBOYS album, which is a compilation album from all the artists on Travis Scott's Cactus Jack Records, but the teasing of that project got kicked up into much higher gear the second the Clips went full force on their rollout and started dissing Travis Scott within it. That's when we started getting cryptic Instagram posts from Travis implying that something new was coming. And to be fair, he was teasing that something new was coming for a couple months in advance, but not giving us a concrete date until July 8th. 3 days before the Clips album drops, we get a brand new single from Travis Scott called 2000 Excursion. And then just 2 days later, on July 10th, he officially announces that the album would be released on July 13th. 2 days after the Clips had already released their album. And you can absolutely tell that they rushed the hell out of this project. We're gonna break it down, but it almost seems like this was something they've been working on for the past couple months, but it wasn't fully finished. But the second Travis realized that Pusha T was dissing him, he went full force into rushing this thing so that it could release on the same week of Pusha T's album and possibly snag the #1 spot on the Billboard charts from Pusha T and No Malice if Justin Bieber doesn't do so quicker. So we're going to dissect how Travis Scott was taking shots at Pusha T on this project, but I think I got to talk about a bigger problem, or I wouldn't say problem actually, I would say a bigger positive shift that I'm seeing going on within music that I think stemmed from what some people would consider a problem. So obviously with the Drake and Kendrick beef, a lot of people are saying there's this big problem of a divide within hip-hop at this point, right? And some chalk it up to Kendrick versus Drake fans. Some chalk it up to the associated camps between Kendrick and Drake. Some people chalk it up to just fans who either appreciate the lyricism and the messaging that Kendrick brings versus the more melodic, global pop type of approach that Drake brings. Regardless of how you want to label it, there's definitely a shift going on, and anyone who tells you there isn't is lying. All right, some people are trying to say there hasn't really been that much of a change. Kendrick's victory did not change or improve hip-hop, but let me give you a couple examples why this is the case, including Travis Scott's latest project. All right. Number one, Akademiks himself even admitted that multiple artists that he's spoken to that used to drop music quite frequently said that Kendrick Lamar killed hip-hop because he made it all about battle rapping, all about the lyrics behind disses. And because of that, all attention has diverted onto Drake versus Kendrick or just battles in general, and no one's really paying attention to these other artists dropping, which has in return made it harder for artists to drop music. And that's why you're not seeing a massive outflow of, random C-level hip-hop releases in 2025. You're not seeing that many projects in general because, as Akademiks puts it, the climate right now has been focused on something bigger, right? We saw a battle that we've never seen before in hip-hop history. We saw one rapper showing to the world why the other one didn't truly align with the core values within hip-hop and brought the discussion back to breaking down bars, breaking down lyrics, bringing the excitement back to that, right? And ever since then, again, a lot of people are going to want to tell you that there hasn't really been this change in the quality of music of what sticks within the mainstream, but we can see various different examples of this not being the case. The first one, obviously, again, being the fact that lower level rappers that speak to Akademiks, aka these SoundCloud, these mumble rappers, they don't feel like the climate is accepting of the type of music they've been putting out. So they don't feel comfortable right now putting out music in 2025, and that's why they try to make the excuse or shift the blame to this being Kendrick Lamar's fault. But you are still seeing rappers thrive and see success in 2025. It's just a different type of artist, right? You're seeing, of course, Kendrick Lamar and Tyler, the Creator, both have their biggest years in music in their careers. You're seeing artists like Doechii who took the traditional approach of creating a conceptual album, marketing it, developing as an artist, and then reaping the benefits of her hard work. And we're seeing her reach milestones that a lot of newcomers have not achieved in the last decade. I think that stems from her following the same blueprint as a lot of TDE artists in the past, including Kendrick Lamar, and valuing artistry over anything else. People will also try to use the argument that, oh, Kendrick didn't really improve or create a positive shift within hip-hop, because look at 2025, right? We're seeing the same amount of hip-hop projects that we saw in 2023, which was arguably the lowest year we saw in hip-hop in terms of mainstream output, right? But go back to what Akademiks said in that Kendrick killed hip-hop because he raised the bar for artists to drop quality projects and then being scared to drop something that will be horribly received. And then go back and think about some of the projects that we received in the last year. People woke up and realized they don't want to be fed garbage anymore. And that's very evident in the reception we've seen to various major artist projects. Go look at Lil Uzi Vert's Eternal Take 2. The reception to that was so bad that it sold only 60,000 copies in its first week, when Lil Uzi with every other album has sold over 100K. And his album in 2023, The Pink Tape, was arguably just as bad, but didn't receive half the hate. Then look at Lil Baby's album that came out at the beginning of this year, right? Absolutely came and went within 1 week. People are tired of the stale flows, the recycled bars, the lack of subject matter, the lack of substance, right? You're seeing it as well with Young Thug, right? You'd think after 2 years of being incarcerated, the hype for his next album would be through the roof, right? His buzz would be bigger than ever. But with the mediocre music he's been releasing and more of a focus on his disdain towards rats than actually creating positive or strong music, people are simply moving on. And they're showing more interest in Gunna, even though Young Thug would say he ratted, because Gunna is actually leading with good music, leading the BS on the side. Then look at Lil Wayne's The Carter 6, right? When have we ever seen this level of disrespect towards a legend like Lil Wayne for putting out a lackluster experimental project? He's done so multiple times in the past. I'm Not a Human Being 2, Rebirth. He's not a stranger to experimental music. Look at Funeral, his album in 2020. That project was arguably just a little slightly bit better than the Carter 6. But the Carter 6 got absolutely flamed because people are tired of the same recycled nonsense. Even look at the reception to Drake's Sexy Sleepy Songs for You, right? There were some hits on that project. Nokia, Somebody Who Loves Me, those are quality pop and R&B songs. But the rest of it, the stale, monotonous, auto-tune drenched generic music, went nowhere. And when it was initially released, the project was flamed. My point is that if you're not leading with good music at this point in time, fans are going to be a lot more critical of it, because I think the general audience had woken up after this battle and realized, hey, the standard could be set at a much higher level. We appreciate actually dissecting bars and going back to the essence of what hip-hop is, right? Competition, introspection, leading with a positive message. And that's really been the only type of music that has been rewarded ever since the battle has ended. And in my opinion, that's truly what the shift within hip-hop has been over the last year. People going back to wanting quality and rewarding quality. Even look at stuff like the Joey Badass battle, right? The last time we saw a moment like the Red Bull Cypher that Joey, Big Sean, and Absol had did could be traced back to the Control era, right? Where we were getting massive posse cuts like One Train, obviously Control. Back when you had the BET Cyphers, the radio freestyles, we haven't seen a lot of that type of energy forever in hip-hop. And when it came back this time around with the Red Bull Cypher, it popped off into a massive battle of multiple artists participating and keeping it friendly, keeping it competitive, keeping it straight hip-hop. And that ended up becoming one of the bigger moments of this year, right? Like that battle between Daylight, Ray Vaughn, and Joey Badass had more attention from the mainstream than Lil Wayne, Lil Uzi Vert, and Lil Baby's albums combined. If that's not enough to show you that a shift has been happening within hip-hop, then I don't know what is. And again, Travis Scott's JACKBOYS 2 album is a prime example of this shift taking place, because people are tired of the generic BS, right? To me, this album is not that good, but it's not that much higher of a step up from the original JACKBOYS project. That wasn't that great either. A little bit better, but not so much better to the point where people were praising that album, but absolutely crapping on this one. And again, I think this album was released in an effort to sabotage what Pusha T had going on with his rollout and with his album. Of course, the album, again, didn't have a release date until 3 days ago after the Clips already released their project. And Travis Scott bundles like crazy, so it's likely he will go number one to show Pusha T like, hey, you might have dissed me on your project, but mine will still outsell yours. But it's not just the sales that matters, right? It's the longevity of the project. the fans' public perception of it, and the fans are not happy with it. And I got a lot of gripes with this project. I mean, between the horrible integration of the Waka Flocka and 21 Savage ad-libs scattered throughout different tracks, the whole entire project seeming mainly like a Travis Scott throwaway more than a tape to actually showcase the talent off his label, Travis constantly using this stale, monotonous flow that Lil Baby originated a couple years ago, one of my least favorite flows that, for some reason, every single trap artist today uses. Young Thug, Future, Travis himself, like the habada habada ho. It's like if Lil Baby copied Migos' Homework and came up with a more robotic, simpler, dumbed down version of their flow, and then gave it to the entire group of trap artists in Atlanta that he was working with, because it's just the easiest flow to deliver. And that's the whole problem with this album, is everything kind of sounds half finished and just lazy. Like songs like Dumbo, the backbone of the song sounds like it could be a good concept. There's this bouncy drum line, psychedelic synth in the background. Travis even starts off kind of flowing in this unique cadence, using this like Young Thug, Playboi Carti type of baby voice, but his vocals are incoherent. The song just drags on for an unnecessary amount of time, especially because he's not talking about absolutely anything, and then he just starts singing. A lot of these songs follow that type of structure. There's beat switches all over the place, but they don't sound cohesive, they don't flow together. The song just kind of seems directionless all over the place. These showcases of his actual artists like Sofago or Sheck West sound like Travis also just used their throwaway songs, and this is horrible because this is the biggest look that either of those artists have had, arguably in their entire career, and on this massive anticipated project, they're coming with some of their worst efforts. There's a handful of songs where the production literally just sounds hard on the ear. Like, I don't know what to compare it to exactly, but the beats on this album almost sound like TV static with hi-hats in the back. They're all kind of going for this like dark, haunted, video game distorted type of sound, which was very prevalent on Travis's Utopia album, but the melodies and the beats, the production overall on that project was a lot more impressive, and the flows were not nearly as repetitive, and the lyrics even had more substance. Everything here is repetitive, from the song structures, the flows, the loops and the beats. Like, go listen to a song like Contest. It's Sofago and Travis repeatedly doing the same exact flow, repeating the same words over and over again with the beat on this same loop over and over. And because it's such a like hard-hitting beat, to have that on repeat over and over again throughout the entirety of the song is just very, very rough on the ear. And then other tracks, his artists just sound half asleep, like Sheck West on I Love My Beat. Literally sounds like he was trying to make a bad sounding song. The only song to me that kind of stands out is Where Was You. I like the beat a lot. There's like this interesting guitar loop on it. I like the melodic pocket Future had on the end of his verse, and even the Playboi Carti hook. Travis does the bare minimum here, but he does what he needs to do. Like, this sounds like a throwaway song, but them three being like trap's best artists right now in the game, probably from a mainstream perspective, still as a throwaway, it's not such a bad song. But then Travis goes back to not just sounding like he's giving throwaways, but sounding like he's half asleep on songs like Beep Beep, where the beat is like this psychedelic, has these like off-tone type of chimes in the background, and even with a beat that's so chaotic, Travis is literally snoozing. Then the song that kind of diverts experimentally the most is PBT. It's like a dancehall type of track, but even there, Travis sounds half asleep. There's no soul on a beat that requires you to, if you're not going to be a good singer, at least sing with some passion, right? He tries to bring some expression, some passion, some experimentation to the song Shine with that whole like wobbly wibbly wobbly reprise. Like, if you haven't heard that song, it's just absolutely insane. There's no way to even describe this thing. Glorilla kills it on her feature on that track, but it's just a waste for her to be there because Travis is literally freestyling as like ridiculously as he possibly could with the wobbly chorus. Like, to show you how much this album lacks subject matter, the most I learned about Travis on the entire project is that he thinks bust down watches are nice, but he bought a plain Jane one instead because they're worth more. I haven't learned anything about what he thinks of the current affairs in the world or what's going on with him over the last few years. I learned more about Travis Scott's life from those few bars on Pusha T song So Be It than I did on an actual Travis Scott album. Bun B is kind of like hosting the entire album. He acts as like a narrator in between songs, but he doesn't really also either say anything of substance. And it took me a lot of effort to actually finish the album. Like, I had to put it down a couple times and then come back to it just to say that I actually completed it, to give it a full fair chance. Decided to listen to the whole thing. It's just a lot of throwaways, a lot of features that aren't even on the Cactus Jack label, and again, just sounds like more of a project of Travis Scott throwaway songs with high status features who are the standouts to each one of the songs that they're featured on. But with those high profile guests and the lack of actual presence of Cactus Jack members, this album stands out as more of a cry for attention from Travis Scott to prove his relevance in a week where real hip hop is being put to the forefront. And an album at that forefront is questioning his morality within the bars. on the song So Be It, right? And in an attempt to kind of step on the Clips' album release, Travis selfishly shows you that he is exactly what Pusha T was calling him out for being on So Be It. He's a backstabber. He's backstabbing in the sense that he had the opportunity here to really showcase the talent on his label with this JACKBOYS project, right? This is like the most popular Travis has ever been. As he drops more albums, more and more eyeballs continue to generate onto him. So with this being a label release, you would think, you know, with him being at the height of his popularity, he would kind of take a step back and showcase his label's talent to the world on this project. Kind of like what Kanye did with Cruel Summer, right? That really opened the doors for Pusha T's solo career, for Big Sean's career. He had his biggest hits off of the Cruel Summer album. For 2 Chainz' career, right? His highlight verse off of Mercy. Even Lil Wayne's Young Money compilation highlighted Drake and Nicki as they made their introduction to the game on songs like Bedrock or Every Girl in the World or Roger That, right? Lil Wayne took a step back on that project. Travis Scott is not doing that here. And again, it seems like it was a rushed attempt at trying to step on the Clips' release, then actually an organized concoction of his label's artists' best work in order to give them their biggest look in the spotlight. Instead of showcasing or helping his artists as an executive, Travis decides to throw them in for a couple mediocre verses, putting their throwaways on this album to really give new fans the impression that they're not that great at all, and essentially make the main show about himself. Now, he did end up actually not just dissing Pusha T by releasing this album within the same tracking week of the Clips' new album, but also actually dissing Pusha T on the project when he raps, "These old guys tried to kill me. I know my YNs feel me. They just want the real me. Blue Bugatti, I'm dodging TMZ. Made 100 off of pushing T's. Now my phone on D&D." Remember Pusha T saying that he can expose, or TMZ, a revealing video about something that compromises Travis Scott, something that led him to lose his pride, right? Calabasas took your B and your pride, and I have the video. I can TMZ it. Travis here is saying that he's dodging TMZ and he made 100 off of pushing T's. His phone is on D&D. He's not answering it for Travis. But also what I find funny is him saying, "These old guys trying to kill me and my YNs feel me." Travis Scott is 34 years old, all right? I understand his music connects with the youth, but he himself is not necessarily a young guy. I mean, 34 is not old, but he's not young either. So for him to be calling out old guys that are trying to kill him, I mean, what does that make him? Middle-aged? All I know is don't let Pusha T catch wind of this, because we all know what happened to Drake when he jumped out the gate dissing Pusha T after Pusha T sent him a little warning shot, right? I do respect Travis for responding. I mean, thinking of who Travis is, he's the last rapper in the world I would expect to confidently engage in a rap battle with Pusha T. And I think Pusha T knows that, but I would love to see Pusha T go full force into this, because what could Travis possibly do, right? If Pusha T jumps out the gate with a story of Adin, what the hell could Travis say to that? Yeah, it's all fun and games when you could, you know, drop your album the same week, show like, look, I sold more than you, I sold more bundles and t-shirts, and look, I could send a little subliminal diss, play off the TMZ bar, or, you know, make a little word play off your name. Very cheap shot. But what would happen if Travis actually had to step up to the bat to a full-fledged expose on his character, on his spot within hip-hop, from a lyricist who is far superior? Well, let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you in the next one.